Welcome to the WTG South Permian Midstream Sonora Gas Processing Plant. There are important safety procedures that must be followed for this facility and associated compressor facilities. You are required to watch this video and sign the orientation sheet before being allowed access to these facilities. After orientation, you will be issued a decal to be affixed onto your hard hat as proof of orientation. This video will help you understand safe practices while visiting our facilities. Let's get started. Using the sign-in sheet located at the treating facility's main office or control room, each vendor, contractor, and visitor must sign in and out every time they enter or leave the facility. You are only allowed to visit the part of the facility you've been approved to work in. Upon leaving the facility, please be sure to leave through the same gate you entered. Emergency conditions may require deviation from this policy. If a non-WTG vehicle needs to be driven into the facility, you must first get verbal permission from WTG operational personnel. Vehicles should not be driven over the maximum speed limit of 10 miles per hour. If you are entering a processing area, check in with the operating personnel to make sure the area is safe to enter. You must notify treating facility personnel before any alteration to equipment is performed. Only WTG personnel are allowed to operate any valves, switches, or controls unless under the direct supervision of a WTG personnel. Be sure to let operating personnel know when you depart and report the status of all work you have performed. Before beginning work, a representative for the contractor will meet with a designated WTG employee. They will review work to be done and both general and special precautions that may be required. The contractor is required to conduct daily pre-work briefings in addition to periodic safety meetings. All workers must exercise safe work practices at all times. Visitors or contractors who do not adhere to these safety practices and rules may be removed from the facility. Smoking is prohibited inside the fenced area of the gas processing plant. Smoking is not permitted inside any WTG building. Obscene or indecent behavior, theft, fighting, malicious conduct, or horseplay will not be tolerated. Cameras, firearms, ammunition, weapons, illegal drugs, and alcohol are not allowed. All contractors must fully understand and follow the WTG safety manual. Contractors are responsible for communicating to their employees and subcontractors. Contractors are responsible for adhering to proper personal protective equipment, or PPE, and any respiratory protection if needed. All facilities must adhere to facial hair requirements for respiratory protection. Contractors are required to conduct periodic safety inspections to make sure all equipment, vehicles, and tools are in good working order, and that all employees are following safe work practices. Work areas must be clean and orderly at all times. Trash and refuse is not allowed to accumulate. Violation of these rules, or any OSHA regulations written in CFR 1910 or 1926, will cause a suspension of contractors' work until the violations are corrected. Repeat violations will lead to termination of the work contract. Contractors are responsible for providing at least one person trained in first aid and CPR procedures per crew. The contractor is also required to have an H2S or multi-gas monitors, first aid kit available to the crew, and provide transportation to medical facilities for more serious emergencies. Any incident, accident, or injury should be immediately reported to your WTG contact person. Contractors are required to write and submit an incident report within 24 hours of the incident, and may be required to provide a drug and alcohol test for the injured employee. Your WTG contact person can also answer questions and review hazards you could encounter in your specific job or location. If you do not know who your contact person is, ask the person who provided you with this video. Contractors and vendors are required to provide appropriate PPE for their workers and to ensure that workers have been trained in the use and care of the equipment they will use. When entering the fenced area, all personnel must be equipped with HRC2 rated FRC long-sleeve shirts and full-length pants, steel-toed work shoes, safety glasses, hard hat, and a personal H2S monitor. Excessively baggy clothing, which will be determined by WTG personnel, is prohibited. Hearing protection is mandatory in areas where signs are posted indicating a high-noise area. Other PPE that may be required, depending on the task being done, includes gloves, face shields, respiratory protection, and/or fall protection. Contractors and vendors using hazardous chemicals will need to use appropriate protective equipment for all the materials they will be working with. All protective equipment must comply with applicable regulations and industry-accepted national standards. Appropriate fall protection is required where work involves exposure to a fall of 6 feet or more. Properly selected and maintained tools and equipment is an essential part of any job. Contractors are required to provide their crews with all tools and equipment needed to safely perform the task. Tools and equipment may not be lent or borrowed between contractors and WTG without the written permission of both companies. Prior to beginning the job, workers should be trained in the care and safe use of the equipment they will use. Only trained personnel are allowed to operate motorized equipment. Prior to operating, daily pre-checks are required. Equipment should be operated safely, and the use of a spotter is required when backing into the process area or any other congested areas. All excavations must be inspected by a competent person and protected before entrance is allowed. This is in accordance with OSHA Regulations 1926.650, 1926.651, and 1926.652. Excavations that are left unattended must be clearly marked or barricaded. These requirements apply to both excavation and trenching. Contractors must make sure that all crane work, including suspended personal baskets, complies with OSHA Part 1926.550. Aerial lifts must comply with OSHA Part 1926.453. Scaffolding must comply with OSHA Part 1926.450 to 454, which refers to the requirements for cranes, derricks, aerial lifts, fall protection for scissor lifts, and scaffolding. During your visit at the Sonora gas plant and associated compressor facilities, you will notice processing equipment, pressure vessels, pumps, and compressors that may contain flammable gas under pressure or liquefied petroleum gas. Other flammable material may also be present. In order to safely handle these materials, it is everyone's job to learn proper handling procedures. You will also need to learn to identify and avoid potential hazards. Some of the physical hazards which may be present in our facility include poisonous gases, such as hydrogen sulfide, highly flammable gases or liquids under pressure, extremely cold gases or liquids, steam, moving equipment and vehicles, overhead loads, high voltage electrical energy, slip, trip, and fall hazards, high noise areas, hazardous chemicals, and benzene, asbestos, and caustic gases. Hydrogen sulfide gas is extremely hazardous, even in low concentrations, and work in these areas shall be performed with extreme caution. There are several areas in the facility that have a potential of a hydrogen sulfide gas release. These areas have breathing equipment available to perform your job safely. Some of the gas compressors have a 50-foot radius restricted area. No entries into these areas are permitted without WTG notification, donning of breathing equipment, and standby personnel are required in these areas. Hazardous chemicals may cause serious injury or death if improperly handled, so it is vital to learn and communicate proper safety procedures. Safety data sheets, or SDS, are available for all hazardous chemicals used in operations. These documents are located in binders in the office, control room, and/or the lab. If a contractor brings a hazardous material into the facility, he or she is required to provide an SDS. The sheet should be provided to your facility contact at the main office or another designated individual prior to commencing work with the chemicals. Before using any chemicals, be sure you are familiar with hazards, as well as what precautions and personal protection is needed for the handling of each chemical. In the event of exposure, take action as directed by the SDS. If the work you'll perform could in any way place employees, other contractors, or visitors at risk, you're required by law to communicate that to your WTG contact. Electrical equipment on the facility typically ranges from 24 VDC to 480 VAC. Any electrical work must be discussed with treating facility personnel for direction. Any persons performing work on these systems must be properly trained. Depending on the work to be done, you may be required to obtain a permit. The hot work permit is used for jobs involving emission sources where flammable mixtures of hydrocarbons or chemicals may be present. Examples include welding or torch cutting, battery-operated equipment that is non-intrinsically safe, brazing, burning, cathodic protection, chipping, electric tools and lights, explosives, non-explosion-proof extension cords, generators, grinders, open fires, sandblasting, soldering, and energized electrical work, or the operation of a combustion engine or power tool in an electrically classified area. The Confined Space Entry Permit is designed for authorizing entry into a space with limited escape and poor natural ventilation. The confined space entry work will not be performed until this permit is obtained by third-party rescue personnel. Hazardous atmospheres may quickly develop in this type of work area, and strict review is required by facility management. Before beginning your job, a qualified WTG employee will inspect your work area and issue the permit. The contractor will post the permit. All work should be done in accordance with the requirements outlined. If the conditions are unclear, or if situations develop which are not addressed on the permit, immediately stop work and contact the person who issued the permit or the operator in the area. If a lockout-tagout procedure is required, you must communicate your procedures to the WTG representative prior to the beginning of work. This procedure must be used to secure the equipment while you're working. Contract crew supervisors are required to review the control measures to confirm that all energy sources are isolated. Contractors will provide locks for their employees. If existing lockouts are in place, observe the danger tags associated with the lockout and exercise caution when following the lockout procedures in these areas. Contact the facility operator to fill out proper documentation for all lockout-tagouts or if you have any questions or concerns. The Sonora gas plant has several different alarms for process. If an emergency situation develops, an evacuation alarm will sound. When you hear this, immediately stop work, turn off equipment unless it is hazardous or will put you at risk, and evacuate by following your guide or WTG supervisor to the upwind or crosswind rally point. If you are alone, proceed immediately to an exit away from the danger area and go to the upwind or crosswind rally point. The location of the emergency will determine which exit is used. The primary muster point is in the southwest corner at the main gate entering off of FM 155. Maps showing routes to safe areas are posted in the control room. At the assembly area, a WTG employee will be designated to conduct a roll call of all personnel and provide additional instructions. When the incident has been properly handled, a verbal all-clear signal will be used. Emergency telephone numbers, such as fire, ambulance, or doctor, are posted in the control rooms at the treating facility. At the field locations, access to telephone communication and local emergency numbers are the responsibility of the contractor. Equipment such as fire extinguishers, fire blankets, emergency showers, eye wash stations, SCBA's escape respiratory equipment, and first aid kits are shown on the safety equipment plot plan for the site. Prior to performing any work in the treating facility, locate fire extinguishers and other applicable emergency equipment closest to your work area and determine the safe evacuation route to the nearest emergency exit. WTG wants everyone to do their part to maintain a safe work environment. If you have any questions about any of the information contained in the video, or on any other subject concerning the Sonora gas plant and its compressor facilities, please direct them to your WTG contact at this time. Thank you.